Tupac Shakur was more than a rapper. He was a poet of pain, a voice of resistance, and a reflection of a society struggling with itself. He was an icon, a revolutionary, a contradiction, and above all, a human being whose story is etched into the very fabric of modern culture. Long after his death, his words still resonate, speaking volumes about injustice, love, anger, and hope. This is not just the story of a musician who sold millions of records. This is the story of a young man shaped by revolution, defined by struggle, and ultimately claimed by a destiny he seemed to foresee. To understand Tupac is to understand a generation's cry for a voice, a truth, and a future. This is the full story of Tupac Shakur, the man, the myth, and the legacy that refuses to be silenced. Born in New York City in 1971, Lesane Parish Crooks was given a name rooted in rebellion just a year later, Tupac Amaru Shakur. His mother, Afeni Shakur, was a political activist and a prominent member of the Black Panther Party. In fact, she was acquitted of more than 150 charges in the Panther 21 trial just a month before his birth. From infancy, Tupac's world was filled with the ideals of justice, resistance, and sacrifice. The conversations in his home weren't about cartoons. They were about revolution, systemic oppression, and the fight for Black liberation. But this world was also one of poverty, instability, and constant surveillance. He moved frequently, living in shelters and struggling to find a stable footing. This upbringing forged a duality within him, a deep-seated desire for social justice, paired with the street-level awareness needed to navigate a world that felt both hostile and unpredictable. He learned early that survival required both strength and a sharp mind. These formative years planted the seeds of the man he would become, a philosopher born from the concrete. Before the world knew him as a rap superstar, Tupac was a poet. His family relocated to Baltimore, and it was there, at the Baltimore School for the Arts, that his creative spirit truly began to flourish. He wasn't just another kid from the block. He was a dedicated student of the arts. He studied acting, poetry, ballet, and literature with a fierce passion. He found as much inspiration in the works of Shakespeare as he did in the rhythms of street poetry. His teachers and classmates saw something rare in him, a young man who possessed a profound emotional depth and an extraordinary ability to express it without fear or filter. He wrote endlessly in his notebooks, filling them with poems about love, loss, and the social injustices he saw around him. This period was the foundation of his power. It wasn't raw anger that fueled him, but a refined and articulate form of expression. He was honing the tools that would later allow him to capture the hearts and minds of millions. He was learning to turn his pain into art, his observations into powerful narratives. When Tupac entered the world of hip-hop, first as a roadie and dancer for Digital Underground, he arrived with a mission. He wasn't content to simply create party tracks or boast about wealth. He wanted to use his platform to speak the truth, his truth, and the truth of the communities he came from. His debut album, Tupacalypse Now, was a raw, unfiltered look into the realities of urban America. He told stories of single mothers struggling to make ends meet, of children abandoned by a broken system, of the constant tension and brutality between the police and the community. He gave a voice to people who were rarely heard in the mainstream, articulating their frustrations, fears, and hopes with an honesty that was both shocking and refreshing. But with that truth came immense controversy. His lyrics were dissected, criticized, and even blamed for acts of violence by politicians. He was a lightning rod from the very beginning, forcing a national conversation about the issues he was so determined to expose. He wasn't just making music. He was holding up a mirror to America, and not everyone liked what they saw. Fame arrived quickly, and it was a whirlwind. With hit albums like Strictly for My N.I.G.G. and his breakout role in the film Juice, Tupac became a global superstar. He was magnetic, intelligent, and unapologetically bold. But fame was a double-edged sword. He became a symbol, and what that symbol represented depended entirely on who you asked. To millions of fans, he was a hero, a modern-day prophet speaking truth to power. To the establishment, the media, and law enforcement, he was often portrayed as a threat, a dangerous figure glorifying a lawless lifestyle. Internally, Tupac grappled with this profound contradiction. He was a complex figure who preached about ending the violence in the streets, yet found himself entangled in it. He wrote some of the most beautiful and sensitive songs about respecting women, like Keep Ya Head Up, yet faced public scrutiny and legal battles over his personal conduct. He spoke about love and unity, yet was surrounded by hostility and rivalries. The world was watching his every move, but very few people seemed to truly understand the man struggling beneath the weight of the icon he had become. The controversies and legal battles that had followed him for years eventually culminated in a conviction and a prison sentence in 1995. For a man who was constantly moving, creating, and performing, prison became a moment of forced stillness, a stark and isolating pause in his chaotic life. But Tupac didn't let the time go to waste. Stripped of the fame and the noise, he turned inward. He read voraciously, devouring books on philosophy, history, and military strategy, from Machiavelli's The Prince to Sun Tzu's The Art of War. He continued to write, filling notebooks with poetry, song lyrics, and deep reflections on his life and the world around him. This period of incarceration was a crucible. It hardened him, but it also clarified his vision. He began to see the world, the industry, and the people around him differently, with a sharper, more cynical perspective. The experience fueled a sense of betrayal and paranoia that would profoundly shape the final chapter of his life. He emerged from prison a changed man, with a new and dangerous clarity. When Tupac was released from prison, bailed out by Suge Knight of Death Row Records, he was transformed. The thoughtful, socially conscious artist of his early career was now overlaid with a darker, more intense persona. He was reborn. The energy he brought back was electric, but it was also laced with rage. He immediately got to work, recording his masterpiece, All Eyes on Me, the first ever hip-hop double album. The album was a commercial juggernaut, a celebration of survival and success, but it also carried a heavy, foreboding atmosphere. His music grew sharper, his lyrics more confrontational. His words became heavier, filled with themes of paranoia, betrayal, and a deep-seated fatalism. He adopted the Machiavelli moniker, inspired by the political philosopher who advocated for feigning one's death to deceive enemies. He spoke openly and frequently about death and destiny, almost as if he sensed his time was running out. Success exploded to unimaginable heights, but peace remained further away than ever. He was at the top of the world, but he seemed to be looking over the edge. On the night of September 7, 1996, in Las Vegas, Tupac Shakur's life was cut short in a drive-by shooting. He was only 25 years old. The news sent shockwaves around the globe. For 6 days, the world held its breath as he fought for his life, but his injuries were too severe. The silence that followed his death was deafening, quickly filled with questions, theories, and grief. Who was responsible? Why did it happen? The mystery surrounding his murder became a modern-day myth, spawning countless documentaries, books, and conspiracy theories that continue to this day. But in the midst of the confusion and sorrow, one thing was certain: his voice did not die. In fact, in death, it grew even louder, more powerful, and more mythic than it had ever been in life. The final night of his life marked the end of a man, but the beginning of a legend. Tupac's influence transcends music. Decades after his passing, he remains a towering figure in global culture. He became a symbol of resistance against oppression, a voice for the voiceless. He became a symbol of honesty, unafraid to expose his own flaws and fears. And he became a symbol of vulnerability, particularly for Black men, showing that it was possible to be strong and sensitive, tough and thoughtful. His legacy lives not just in his multi-platinum albums, but in the notebooks filled with his poetry, which revealed the depths of his soul. It lives in the countless interviews where he articulated his brilliant, complex mind with passion and clarity. And it lives in his contradictions, which revealed his profound humanity. From university classrooms where his lyrics are studied as literature to murals painted on walls in cities across the world, Tupac's impact is undeniable and everlasting. He inspired a generation of artists, activists, and thinkers to use their voice and to never be afraid to speak their truth. In the end, who was Tupac Shakur? He was a product of his revolutionary roots and the harsh realities of his environment. But legends are not born from perfection. They are born from impact. They are born from the ability to touch the core of the human experience, to make people feel, think, and question the world around them. Tupac Shakur did all of that and more. He was a poet who captured the rhythm of a generation, a philosopher who questioned the status quo, and a rebel who lived and died by his own rules. His story is a powerful reminder that one voice, filled with passion and truth, can indeed change the world. And Tupac's impact continues to shape culture, thought, and voice today. His legacy is eternal,